Hello everybody, this is HG Shaves. I'm back with the video, and Happy New Year's Eve to everybody. I hope that you all have had a good holiday season and that your New Year's celebrations will be equally as joyous, let's say. So today we're not doing a shave actually. I've already shaved for today and now I'm just getting ready kind of for the day, and I thought I would do my top favorite products of 2020. I don't know how I'm going to title it yet, but picks for 2020, something like that. And then there's also going to be a giveaway at the end, so stick around for that if you're interested. So 2020 was my first full calendar year of being in this hobby, because in 2019 I'd say I really started getting into the artisan products and things maybe in June or July. So I really only had half a year in 2019, whereas 2020 I was in the hobby for the full year. I did a video pretty much every week, and almost always use a different product, some different product in each video. And so I definitely feel like I learned a lot about the market, the different kind of products that are out there. And hopefully you all learned a little bit along the way with me. However, not all things are created equal, and there were definitely some things that I enjoyed using significantly more than other things, and I thought I would just point those things out to you in a sort of recap format. So let's start with my favorite razor for 2020. The razor is the most important part of your shave, I'd say. And so I did want to acknowledge just all the vintage razors that I got to use this year. I think in 2019, I'd only used maybe like a Gillette Fat Boy. That was the only vintage I used, because I thought that's all there was out there. And that was the only good razor, because certain, let's say, cool people in the community like to use Fat Boys. But I realized there's actually a lot more out there. And so for my favorite razor, it has to be the gem razors kind of in general. More specifically, the Micromatic Clog-Pruf. I've tried out probably close to 10 different gems at this point, and this one really suits me the best as being kind of a middle of the road razor. It's not mild, it's not aggressive. It sits kind of right in the middle, and I love the design of it as well. While I did get used to kind of the shorter gem handles that come on most of those razors, this one has more of a normal sized handle, I'd say. And so for that as well, it just has a good balance feel in the hand. I love the twist to open mechanism. And so this has to be my favorite gem. But again, I just do want to shout out kind of the gem razors in general. I joked with John of Latherhog in a video that he did at the start of the year where he was using like a Gem Junior. And I think I made a comment, something to the effect of, like that razor looks crazy. It looks like a small torture device. Like it would take a world pandemic for me to try those razors. And so then when the pandemic started, I decided to jump down into it, and I'm glad I did. So that's my gem spiel. However, for those of you who don't use gems, but you still like vintages, if I had to pick a favorite vintage DE, it would probably be some form of the Gillette Tech. This particular one is the flat bottom Tech with a thin handle. But there's also, my second favorite is probably the Canadian Triangle Tech, pre-war Tech, which you can also find those in the US make, but I just happen to like it because it's Canadian, a little more exotic. But yeah, the Tech gets my favorite vintage DE for 2020. Okay, so that's the razor bit. Let's go into brush. So for 2020, this was a good year for me in realizing that a lot of the brushes that people like out there, or I should say the people that are in my particular kind of shaving group, I don't like most of those brushes. I may like how they look, but in use, I actually don't enjoy a lot of those brushes. And this was a good year for me in realizing that, again, brushes just don't matter as much to me as they do to some of my friends, and that's perfectly okay. So it was hard for me to pick a favorite brush because of, again, my general sort of, apathy toward most of them. However, the one that stood out to me is one that you've seen somewhat recently, the Whiskers Superhead Density brush. Again, this was a custom for somebody, and he decided that he didn't want it anymore. and I was able to pick this up. And again, I think this is a really just incredible pour. It's basically 2 pours in one. That's the one side. You turn it around, that's the other side. Or you can look at it from the side like that, and it's just everything all together. This is definitely a great batch of the SHD knots from Maggard. They do vary a little bit, and so I'm happy with that. And you know, we'll have the coin on the bottom. Wolf Whiskers is somebody, you know, Peter, I've always kind of admired the work that he's done, but I've never really found one that I love, and I certainly do love this brush. So favorite brush goes to the Wolf Whiskers SHD. All right, next up, let's talk about a soap. So for the soap, and actually for all of these products, let me be clear, in order for it to be in my list of considerations, it had to be made this year, and it had to be, I had to have tried it for the first time this year. But we're talking about artisan products here, right? So of course the razors weren't made this year, right? But for a soap, I wasn't allowing myself to pick from a soap that was made in a prior year, but I happened to pick up this year and use. So with that in mind, my favorite soap of the year, and has to be the Spearhead Shaving 20.1 base, if we're going by bases. So this is a soap that I tried out. I think this was one of the last ones he did in 20.1 before he came out with the Spearhead, the Seaforth release. Spearhead's the name of the company. Seaforth is the vintage brand that he brought back to life, basically. And the reason why I'm picking this as my favorite base is because Dennis of Spearhead, he really went through a lot of different variations, and he tried out different formulations, right? And he always offered them at a fair price, and he was always transparent that, hey, these are experimental. You know, he would use this label, and it would be obvious to you, hopefully, that he was just trying it out. And then when he did settle on 20.1, he made the decision to bring back this old vintage brand, and he also partnered with Sean of Chateau Luxe to do the scent for him. So my only complaint with the Spearhead soaps kind of before that time was that they were, you know, limited scents, right? Dennis was more interested in trying out the different soap variations than he was doing scents. However, when he partnered with Sean of Spearhead, he was able to have, you know, hire Sean to do these very complex, nice kind of tribute scents. And to me, that kind of solidified him in my book as being this really well-rounded soaper for the year of 2020, considering I think he really just started doing all of these variations like at the start of this year. So lots of people love those Seaforth scents. For some reason, for me, I don't really care for either of them, but I'm definitely in the minority in that I do not like heather or spice. But the thing with that kind of brand is that you're able to really connect with a lot of different people, and that some of the, let's say, older generation oriented shavers, just older shavers who maybe aren't interested in like a modern artisan product, when you bring back a vintage brand like Seaforth, that is going to bring them in a way that a soap like this maybe wouldn't. So again, I'm just using this bergamot and sandalwood here kind of as a placeholder, but I like this soap very much too. So 20.1 base, love it. Congrats to Dennis and Spearhead for all that they've done this year. All right, for aftershave, what can I say about aftershave this year? One that I use the most, honestly, is the Zingari balm, the Zingari unscented balm. But I didn't include that because while it is very useful, it's a very pragmatic product to use, and I see a lot of people that use unscented balm every day, whether it's Zingari's or Holy Cows or Bear Man's, whatever, or even just like a drugstore brand. It didn't feel quite exciting enough to me to include as like my favorite balm of 2020, and I believe that was my favorite aftershave last year. I'm pretty sure last year when I did the video, I said that the Zingari balm was my favorite. So with that in mind, I picked a different sort of balm aftershave, and it has to be Meštar aftershave lotion from Spartium Cosmetics. So you all might remember this is a new brand. Well, I think the brand is old, but they just started their shaving line of Meštar out of Croatia. And I took very quickly to this aftershave lotion. I love the small bottle. I love the, packaging of it. And most importantly, I love the scent. I've asked Mario, the owner, I think several times, just to be sure, like, this is your scent. This isn't some like popular scent out there that I could go find somewhere else. He said, no, this is our scent. And I think it's just a terrific, dark, aquatic kind of scent. And I have used this so much since I first gotten it. Again, living here in the Midwest, colder climate, I tend to prefer balms and lotions to splashes. And so this has just been a really great product to have. I think I maybe got it from Croatia, I don't know, a couple months ago. And I definitely do use it quite a bit. So again, I want to congratulate Mario and Spartium Natural Cosmetics for what they've done with their Meštar line. And if they're listening, I really hope that they will bring this scent out in some other format within their line of shaving products, whether it's in a soap or in a, I don't know, bath soap or something like that. I think this is a really terrific scent. And yeah, so that's my favorite aftershave for the year. Now, I know that most people in the US aren't going to be able to get that product, so I did want to leave room at the very end of this for what I'm going to call a honorable mention. I didn't really pick a scent of the year. With Spearhead, I focused on the base, right? I didn't pick a scent of the year because I realized that all of my full-size fragrance bottles I purchased last year. I purchased in 2019, and I realized how long, if you all think a soap tub lasts a long time, a bottle of fragrance lasts even longer. So because of that, I didn't buy any full-size fragrances this year. I did sample some new ones, but because I didn't commit to a full bottle of any, I didn't want to choose any of those as my scent of the year. However, because of what I was saying about the aftershave, and not everybody can get that, I did want to do an honorable mention for aftershave and scent. Let's see if I can get this right. Noble Otter Australian Private Reserve marbles. So this was a gift from Cody of Noble Otter, Dan of Australian Private Reserve, to the chat group that I belong to, the wet shaving IRC there. And this, I think Dan started planning it in 2019 because Dan donated the scent. Basically, from what I understand, Dan got the scent together, shipped it over to Cody of Noble Otter, and Cody is the one that made the soap and the aftershave using that. They've done some collaborations in the past, so that kind of made sense. But anyway, this actually arrived to all of us just at the beginning of the year in January. And so the reason why I mention this is because for aftershave, the newest Noble Otter aftershave is my favorite splash on the market. And it has been, I think, since I got this. This was the first, or one of the first, aftershaves that he re-released in this new aftershave formulation. But I think all of his stuff now is in this base. And you can tell because it has just a couple more ingredients than the previous base. But again, I'll reiterate that I think the splash formula has been out for over a year now. But for a terrific splash that pretty much anybody in the US can buy, because I know you can't get the Meštar easily, I just wanted to give a shout out, honorable mention to Noble Otter Aftershave Splash. I do love it, but again, because I live in the Midwest, I tend to prefer balms and lotion, especially in this part of the year. For the scent on this, I will give this a honorable mention as a scent because it's unique, and there's the only thing you could really compare it to is Fenchurch from Australian Private Reserve. This is but Marbles is a tobacco kind of sweet. There's a little bit of boozy in there, and cherry. Cherry is a prominent note in this, and so it does remind me of Fenchurch in that way, but it's different than Fenchurch, and I prefer this to Fenchurch. The only issue I had with this, and the reason why it's not my scent of the year, is because the fragrance that they ended up also kindly gifting to us, basically, the fragrance came in a highly, let's say, concentrated form, and even with just one spritz, it was like too much for me. And that's the same for lots of high concentration fragrances. So anyway, honorable mention, a very kind gift from APR and Noble Otter to our little group. And there's certainly been some, let's say, fuss about that set since it's been released. And it's good to be on this side of things. So anyway, that's my honorable mention. Now, let's talk about the giveaway. So that's my favorite stuff of 2020. Feel free to leave below. And actually, maybe that's what we'll do. I'm totally making this up as I go here, but let's say that. So for the giveaway, I'm going to give away, speaking of APR, Carnival. They did this big clear out. Storybook Soapworks, APR, Storybook closed its doors, unfortunately, for the time being. So they did this clear out where you could pay, I don't know, $7, $8, get a free soap. And I somehow ended up with 2 of these because somebody kindly gifted me theirs. So if you're that person, thank you very much. We're gonna give away this tub because I already have one. And then also, I'd like to give away a gem. This is an Ever-Ready 1912 model, made in America, and it has the Art Deco / chain link handle, which so many people really take to. And of course, I'll throw in some blades for you and maybe some other soap samples. Leave a comment below and just mention a couple things that you really liked out of 2020. Again, kind of, if you can, keeping it in that framework that I did too, of it should have been released this year, not something that was made in 2015, but you just discovered it. And that's really it. Let's see, this video is gonna be up New Year's Eve. Maybe we'll give it a week or something, and then I'll post who won. I'll do a YouTube random comment picker. And yeah, that's it. So again, feel free to leave a comment if you'd like to be considered. But otherwise, thank you all so much for a great 2020. We just reached 200 subscribers, which is great. I think at the end of 2019, I wasn't even at 100. So that's great. Thank you all for watching and your comments and all of that. And coming up next, just in maybe a few days, I'm going to be posting a review with the stuff I've been using all week. A very nice Mexican artisan soap. So leave a comment, a question if you have anything to add, or if you just want to be considered for the giveaway. But this has been HD Shaves. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.